Chosen one, have you ever wondered why your body feels like it weighs 1,000 pounds? Why you can barely lift your head off the pillow, even after 12 hours of sleep? Why every alarm clock feels like a distant echo from another dimension? Stop. What if I told you this isn't depression? This isn't laziness. This isn't even exhaustion. This is God's anesthesia. Right now, at this very moment, the Almighty is performing surgery on your Suland. He needs you unconscious for what He's about to do. You think you're slowing down, but heaven is slowing you down. You think you're missing life, but God is rewriting your life while you can't interfere. Listen to me carefully, chosen one. You didn't stumble onto this message by accident. Your spirit led you here because something sacred is happening to you that the natural mind cannot comprehend. If your body feels heavy, if time feels like it's slipping away, this is not aging. This is spiritual anesthesia. Drop 99 in the comments if your spirit knows God's about to speak directly to your soul. For the past days, maybe weeks, you've been fighting this overwhelming urge to sleep, to withdraw, to disconnect from the noise of this world. You've been calling it fatigue, but I'm here to tell you the shocking truth: you're not tired. You're being transitioned. This isn't sleep. This is divine suspension. You're not in a bedroom. You're in the womb of glory. And just like a baby in the womb doesn't understand what's being formed, you can't see what God is creating in your spiritual DNA right now. What if I told you that your inactivity is heaven's highest activity? While you've been laying there, feeling guilty about not producing, not grinding, not hustling, God has been hushing the world around you because He's about to download something into your spirit that requires absolute silence. Thank you to every single one of you who has supported this message through super thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just donating. You're helping spread light to others who feel alone in their calling. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here, your support, your time, your attention. It all matters. And if this message resonates with your soul, go ahead and let heaven know you're ready. You are not missing life, beloved. You are about to be completely rewritten by the author of life himself. This spiritual lockdown isn't punishment, it's protection. And when you finally emerge from this sacred sleep, you won't just wake up. You'll rise up as someone the world has never seen before. Stay with me. What happens next will change everything you thought you knew about God's timing. Why do you think every time you try to get up, your body pulls you back down? Why does every attempt to rejoin the rat race feel like you're swimming upstream against a hurricane? Why does the very thought of returning to normal life make your soul recoil like it's touched fire? Because there's a war raging around you that you cannot see. Right now, while you're lying there feeling useless, feeling guilty, feeling like you're wasting precious time, spiritual forces are clashing over your destiny with an intensity that would shatter your mind if you could witness it. The enemy has launched his final assault against your calling, and God himself has pulled you into the bunker of his protection. You think you're stuck, but you're being shielded. Listen to me, chosen one. What you're experiencing isn't depression, it's divine defense. The Almighty has drawn a veil over the battlefield because the chaos you can't see would have crushed you if you had kept pushing through it. Remember Job, when Satan came before the throne of God, demanding permission to test this righteous man, what did the Lord say? Have you not put a hedge around him and his household and everything he has? Job 1:10. Even in Job's darkest hour, even when it seemed like God had abandoned him, there was still a divine boundary that the enemy could not cross. And right now, there's a hedge around you. The exhaustion you feel isn't your body giving up, it's God's way of keeping you out of harm's way. Every time you've tried to force yourself back into productivity, back into the grind, back into the battlefield of daily life, something inside you has said, "Number." That wasn't weakness speaking. That was wisdom. Think about it. How many times in the last month have you started to say yes to something, only to feel this overwhelming heaviness descend upon you? How many invitations have you declined because you just couldn't muster the energy? How many opportunities have you let slip by because something deep in your spirit whispered, "Not now"? You called it laziness. Heaven called it protection. The truth is, there are schemes against you that you cannot comprehend. There are traps set in meetings you almost attended. There are spiritual ambushes waiting in relationships you almost pursued. There are contracts with your name on them that would have enslaved your future, and God has supernaturally removed your ability to sign them by keeping you in this sacred state of suspension. David understood this when he wrote in Psalm 31-20, "In the secret place of your presence you hide them from the plots of man. You keep them secretly in a pavilion from the strife of tongues." You're not hiding from life, you're being hidden by the Most High. But here's what's going to blow your mind. While you've been in this spiritual bunker, while you've been feeling like you're missing out on everything, God has been systematically dismantling every trap that was set for you. He's been rerouting the plans of your enemies. He's been closing doors that would have led to destruction and opening others that lead to your destiny. Every day you've spent in this divine hibernation, angels have been working overtime on your behalf. Every hour you've laid in that bed feeling guilty about not grinding, heaven has been grinding the opposition under its feet. You see, the enemy made a fatal mistake. He thought if he could pressure you enough, stress you enough, overwhelm you enough, you would break. But God knew better. Instead of letting you shatter under the pressure, He put you to sleep. Instead of watching you crumble, He made you untouchable. Think about Elijah. After his greatest victory on Mount Carmel, after calling down fire from heaven and slaughtering 450 prophets of Baal, he ran for his life and collapsed under a tree, begging God to let him die. But what did the angel say? "Get up and eat, for the journey is too much for you." 1 Kings 19-7. The journey ahead of you is too much for the old you. That's why God has put you in this cocoon of rest. He's not just protecting you from the storm, He's transforming you for what comes after it. The shepherd doesn't pull his lamb away from the cliff's edge to punish it. He pulls it away to save its life. And right now, you're that lamb, and God is that shepherd, and the cliff you can't see is what would have destroyed everything you're destined to become. But I need you to understand something crucial. This protection, this divine incubation, it has an expiration date. There's coming a moment when the veil will be lifted, when the storm will pass, when the enemy's assault will be defeated. And when that happens, when God says, "It is finished," you're going to rise from this rest, not as the same person who entered it, but as a weapon forged in the furnace of His love. The question is, will you trust the process? Will you stop fighting the very thing that's saving your life? Will you surrender to the sacred suspension that's preparing you for supernatural acceleration? Comment below if you've ever felt like you were stuck, but now you wonder if maybe you were being shielded. Because what I'm about to reveal next will show you exactly what God has been building while you've been resting, and why every enemy that thought they had you cornered is about to discover they've been fighting a ghost, while the real you has been hidden in the secret place of the Most High, being prepared for a comeback that will shake the very foundations of hell itself. You've been running your entire life, haven't you? Running from pain, running toward purpose, running to catch up, running to keep up. Your feet are bleeding from the chase, your lungs are burning from the pace, and your heart is crying out for just one moment of peace. But every time you try to stop, the voice in your head screams, "Lazy, worthless. Everyone else is moving. Why aren't you?" Let me tell you something that's going to shatter everything you think you know about productivity. That voice isn't God's voice. You've carried too much for too long. And heaven has just declared, enough. Right now, as you're listening to these words, God is reaching down from His throne and placing His mighty hand on your chest. Can you feel it? That weight, that heaviness that makes it hard to breathe, hard to move, hard to think about tomorrow's to-do list. That's not depression, beloved. That's divine intervention. God is physically stopping you, because you won't stop yourself. He's placing a holy restraining order on your restless spirit because he loves you too much to watch you burn out in the name of being busy. Listen to what happened to Elijah, the same man who called down fire from heaven, who outran horses, who fearlessly confronted 450 false prophets. In 1 Kings 19:5, after his greatest victory, we find him collapsed under a tree, exhausted and wanting to die. And what did God do? Did he rebuke him? Did he tell him to get back to work? God sent an angel to make him sleep. Twice. Get up and eat, the angel said, for the journey is too much for you. The journey is too much for you. When was the last time someone told you that your burden was too heavy? God is telling you that right now. Through this supernatural stillness that's washing over your body, through this inexplicable need to just stop. This isn't weakness, this is God's wisdom wrapped in human flesh. Stillness isn't laziness, it's obedience in motion. The world has lied to you. Corporate America has lied to you. Social media has lied to you. They've convinced you that your worth is measured by your output, that rest is for the weak, that if you're not grinding, you're dying. But God operates by a different economy. In Psalm 46:10, he commands, not suggests, commands, be still and know that I am God. The Hebrew word for be still is rapha. It means to let go, to release, to stop striving. God is literally commanding you to stop fighting him on this. The world runs on speed. God builds through stillness. Think about it. Every masterpiece was created in quiet moments. Every revelation came in solitude. Moses met God on a mountain. Jesus prayed alone in gardens. Mary pondered in her heart. David wrote psalms while watching sheep, not while networking at conferences. You're not falling behind, you're falling into alignment. But I know what you're thinking. I can't afford to stop. The bills won't pay themselves. My family depends on me. My boss expects results. Here's what's going to shock you. God is silencing your alarms because he's activating your anointing. While you've been busy proving your worth to people who will replace you in a heartbeat, God has been trying to prepare you for something so significant, so life-altering, that it requires total stillness to receive. Imagine this. You're holding a clock in your hands. You can feel it ticking, measuring every second, reminding you of every deadline, every appointment, every obligation. But suddenly, the numbers start melting. The hands stop moving. Time itself bends to the will of the Almighty. And in that moment, you realize you were never late. You were right on time for this divine appointment with rest. This is what's happening to you right now. Heaven is pausing time just for you. Not because you're special in an arrogant way, but because you're special in a chosen way. God has work to do in your spirit that cannot be accomplished while you're distracted by the demands of this world. In Matthew 11:28, Jesus said, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." But here's what most people miss. He didn't say he would give you rest after you finish everything. He said, come to him while you're weary. Your exhaustion is your invitation. The question isn't whether you deserve rest. The question is, will you accept it when God himself is offering it? God is whispering through your silence right now. Not shouting over your chaos, not competing with your calendar, whispering through the very stillness that's making you feel guilty. But here's where it gets dangerous. The enemy knows what God is doing. He knows that when you finally learn to be still, when you finally allow God to fill you, instead of frantically trying to fill yourself, you're going to emerge from this season with power that will shake the foundations of hell. That's why he's flooding your mind with guilt right now. That's why you feel like you're wasting time. That's why every fiber of your being is screaming to get up, get moving, get productive. Resist that voice. It's not from heaven. The very fact that you're fighting this stillness proves how desperately you need it. Healthy people don't resist medicine. Only sick people fight the cure. And you've been spiritually sick with the disease of endless motion, haven't you? What if God is about to do in your stillness what he couldn't do in your striving? You know what the problem is? You've been fighting what God is doing. You've been calling it weakness when heaven calls it worship. You've been panicking about your productivity when the Almighty is performing the most intricate operation your soul has ever experienced. Listen to me, beloved. What's happening to your body right now, this overwhelming heaviness, this inability to function at your normal pace, this isn't a breakdown. This is a breakthrough disguised as a breakdown. For too long, you've been walking around with spiritual fractures you didn't even know existed, emotional bones that never healed properly, neurological pathways carved by trauma, carved by disappointment, carved by years of just surviving instead of thriving. And talking therapy couldn't fix it. Positive thinking couldn't reach it. Even your strongest prayers seemed to bounce off the surface. But God saw deeper. This isn't sleep, it's soul surgery. You're not being lazy. You're being remade. Right now, as I speak these words, the great physician has you on his operating table. And just like any skilled surgeon, he's put you under divine anesthesia, because what he's about to do requires you to be completely still. You cannot help him. You cannot direct him. You cannot even watch what he's doing. The Bible tells us in Psalm 139:14, "I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made." But what happens when that wonderful creation gets damaged by life? When the enemy has twisted your spine of faith? When disappointment has fractured your ability to trust? God doesn't just patch you up, dear one. He rebuilds you from the inside out. Think about this: when a bone is badly broken, what does the doctor do? He doesn't just put a bandage on it. He has to re-break it, reset it, and hold it perfectly still while it heals stronger than it was before. That's exactly what's happening to your spirit right now. Every system in your being, emotional, cellular, neurological, is under divine reprogramming. While you've been lying there feeling guilty about your lack of energy, God has been rewiring your default responses. He's been healing memories that talking couldn't touch. He's been straightening the crooked places in your heart that years of disappointment had bent out of shape. You're not retreating, chosen one. You're being rebuilt. But here's what most people don't understand about divine surgery. It takes time. It takes stillness. It takes surrendering control of the timeline. When Lazarus was in the tomb for 4 days, Martha and Mary thought Jesus was too late. They thought death had won. But Jesus knew something they didn't. Some resurrections require deep rest first. Jesus said to her, "Did I not tell you that if you believed you would see the glory of God?" John 11:40. What if your current stillness is not the end of your story, but the setup for your greatest chapter? What if this season of feeling like you're doing nothing is actually the season where God is doing everything? I want you to think about the caterpillar for a moment. When it enters the chrysalis, it doesn't just grow wings and emerge. Scientists tell us that the caterpillar literally dissolves its entire structure, breaks down into what they call imaginal cells. For days, maybe weeks, there's nothing recognizable left of what it used to be. If you opened that chrysalis during transformation, you wouldn't find a caterpillar working hard to become a butterfly. You'd find complete dissolution. That's you right now. Everything you thought defined you, your productivity, your strength, your ability to push through God, is dissolving those old patterns because they were never meant to carry you into your next season. The butterfly doesn't emerge because the caterpillar tried harder. It emerges because it surrendered completely to the process of becoming something entirely new. Your heaviness isn't depression, it's divine dissolution. Your inability to function at your old pace isn't failure, it's transformation. And every day you spend in this sacred stillness, you're not falling behind. You're being fashioned ahead. But I need to tell you something that might shock you. The enemy has been whispering lies to you during this time. He's been telling you that you're wasting time, that you're falling behind, that God has forgotten you. That's because the enemy knows something you're just beginning to understand. When God finishes this surgery, when you finally emerge from this divine incubation, you're going to be operating at a level that terrifies hell itself. The prophet Isaiah understood this principle. But they who wait for the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. Isaiah 40-31. Notice the order: first waiting, then renewal, then soaring. You can't skip the waiting. You can't rush the renewal. And you absolutely cannot emerge before the transformation is complete. Let God finish the work. Don't rise too soon. Your body knows something your mind is fighting. This rest is not optional anymore. It's essential. Every time you try to force yourself back into your old rhythm, you're actually interrupting heaven's most delicate work. You're like a patient trying to get up in the middle of heart surgery. Say it out loud right now. I trust the surgery. Because here's what's coming next. When God opens your spiritual eyes again, when He lifts this divine anesthesia, you're not going to wake up as the same person who went to sleep. You're going to rise with supernatural strength that doesn't come from coffee or willpower. You're going to move with a peace that doesn't make sense to those who are still living in survival mode, but only if you let Him finish what He started. The question that will determine your destiny is this: will you trust the surgeon even when you can't see the scalpel? But now comes the moment everything has been building toward. The divine alarm clock is about to sound, and when it does, the person who opens their eyes will not be the same person who closed them. You see, beloved, God doesn't just put you to sleep to rest you. He puts you to sleep to resurrect you. Think about Lazarus for a moment. When Jesus called him forth from that tomb, do you think he stumbled out weak and disoriented? No. Scripture tells us the dead man came out, bound hand and foot with grave clothes. But here's what most people miss: came out with the power of resurrection flowing through his veins. He didn't emerge depleted. He emerged as living proof that death has no dominion over what God calls forth. That's you right now, chosen one. You're not just waking up from a nap. You're being called forth from a spiritual tomb, with resurrection power coursing through your spirit. When you rise, and you will rise, you won't rise as the tired version of you. You'll rise as the testimony. Every morning for months, maybe years, you've been dragging yourself out of bed, feeling like you're carrying the weight of the world. Your bones ached not from age, but from the burden of trying to be strong for everyone else. Your soul felt heavy, not from sin, but from the assignments you've been carrying that were never yours to bear. But God saw it all. Every sleepless night you spent worrying about bills that seemed impossible to pay. Every tear you cried in the bathroom so your family wouldn't see you break. Every time you whispered, "God, I can't do this anymore," into your pillow at 3 a.m. Those weren't just tears, beloved. Those were anointing oil. The psalmist declared in Psalm 126:5, "Those who sow in tears shall reap in joy." But what if I told you that every tear you've cried has been preparing the soil of your spirit for a harvest you never saw coming? You've been asking God, "Why is this taking so long? Why haven't you answered my prayers? Why do I feel so stuck?" But what if every why is about to become a wow? Because here's what happens when God puts His chosen ones in divine incubation. He doesn't just heal what was broken. He rewrites what was possible. Remember Moses? 40 years in the wilderness, 40 years, feeling forgotten, tending sheep when he was called to lead nations. But when God appeared in that burning bush, Moses didn't come down from the mountain the same man who went up. His face shone so brightly with the glory of God that the Israelites couldn't even look at him directly. That's the kind of transformation happening to you right now. While you've been sleeping, while you've been feeling useless and unproductive, God has been downloading divine data into your spirit. Strategies you never studied for. Wisdom that didn't come from books. Peace that can't be explained by circumstances. You're going to walk into rooms and people will feel the shift before you even speak. They'll look at you and wonder, what happened to them? There's something different. Something powerful. Every delay was divine data being downloaded. That job you didn't get? God was protecting you from settling for less than His best. That relationship that ended? He was clearing the path for connections that will actually amplify your purpose, not diminish it. That financial struggle that seemed to last forever? He was teaching you how to prosper without compromising your integrity. You thought you were falling behind, but you were actually being positioned ahead. Think about David. While his brothers were out fighting wars and gaining recognition, David was alone in the fields with nothing but sheep for company. But those weren't wasted years. Those were preparation years. Because when the time came to face Goliath, David didn't tremble. He ran toward the giant with the confidence of someone who had already been tested in secret places. "The Lord who delivered me from the paw of the lion and the paw of the bear will deliver me from the hand of this Philistine," David declared in 1 Samuel 17:37. Your giants are about to meet the same fate as Goliath. Because what you learned in your incubation wasn't just patience, was the unshakable knowledge that if God brought you through the wilderness, He will surely establish you in the promised land. You're about to step into rooms where your presence alone shifts the spiritual temperature. Not because you're trying to impress anyone, but because you carry the weight of someone who has been with God in the secret place. When you speak, it won't just be words. It will be wisdom that cuts through confusion and brings clarity to chaos. When you pray, mountains will move not because of your volume, but because of your authority. When you walk into your workplace, your family gatherings, even the grocery store, you'll carry an atmosphere of heaven that makes demons tremble and causes hearts to turn toward God. This is what emergence looks like for the chosen. This is what happens when God's incubation period is complete. But here's the question that will determine everything that happens next. Are you ready to step into the fullness of who you were created to be? Or will you try to shrink back into the small version of yourself that the world feels comfortable with? You feel it, don't you? That stirring deep in your chest, that electricity running through your veins like you haven't felt in decades. You thought those days were over. You thought your best years were behind you. You thought God was done with you. But chosen one, you were never more wrong. What you've been experiencing these past days wasn't God putting you on the shelf. It was God putting you in the workshop. You weren't being discarded, you were being redesigned. And the person emerging from this divine incubation is not the same person who went in. Listen to me carefully. The voice that's been whispering in your ear, "You're too old, you've missed your chance, your time has passed," that's not the voice of heaven. That's the voice of hell, terrified of what you're about to become. Because here's what the enemy doesn't want you to know. You are not rising to go back, you are rising to go forward. David was 30 when he became king, but he was 70 when he penned some of his most powerful psalms. Moses was 80 when God called him to his greatest assignment. Sarah was 90 when she gave birth to promise. Your age isn't your expiration date, it's your elevation certificate. You've been looking at your wrinkles and seeing weakness. God looks at those same lines and sees wisdom. You've been feeling your body slowing down and calling it decline. Heaven sees preparation for a pace that's sustainable, powerful, and purposeful. Your pace will be peace, not panic. For too long, you've been running other people's races, chasing younger people's dreams, trying to keep up with a world that's forgotten the power of patient purpose. But God is resetting your rhythm. He's teaching you to move like royalty, not like refugees. Think about it. When did you last see a king running frantically through his palace? Kings don't rush. They arrive. They don't chase opportunities. Opportunities chase them. And beloved, you are not just any believer. You are spiritual royalty, walking in divine appointment. But you are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, His own special people. That's not past tense, that's present power. But here's where it gets revolutionary. God isn't just changing your pace, He's transforming your voice. For years, maybe decades, you've been speaking from survival, speaking from scarcity, speaking the language of limitation, because that's what life taught you to say. Your voice will no longer echo fear but prophesy freedom. Every time you open your mouth from now on, something supernatural is going to happen. Your words will carry weight they never carried before. Your prayers will pierce dimensions they couldn't reach when you were younger. Your declarations will shake the very foundations of impossibility. You know why? Because you've been through the fire. You've walked through valleys that would have destroyed others. You've survived storms that sank ships with stronger crews. And now, when you speak about God's faithfulness, it's not theory, it's testimony. When you tell someone God will make a way, they don't just hear words, they hear a voice that's been proven in the furnace of real life. When you declare, "This too shall pass," it carries the authority of someone who's watched it pass before. But here's the shocking truth that's going to rearrange everything you thought you knew about your future. You thought you were being forgotten, but God was forming your assignment. Every heartbreak was a classroom. Every disappointment was preparation. Every closed door was God redirecting you towards something bigger. You weren't being punished, you were being prepared for this exact moment in history. Look around you. Look at the chaos in our world. Look at the confusion in our families. Look at the hopelessness in our communities. Now ask yourself this question. Who else is going to speak life into this darkness? Who else has the credibility, the experience, the spiritual authority to stand up and say, "I know the way through because I've walked it before"? The young generation has passion, but you have proof. They have energy, but you have endurance. They have dreams, but you have demonstrated faith. And right now, this broken world needs what only you can give: hope, wrapped in experience, faith proven by fire. You are not just surviving your season, you are the sign God is sending into the earth. You are the evidence that His promises don't expire. You are the living testimony that it's never too late for God to do something new. Isaiah 43:19 declares, "Behold, I will do a new thing. Now it shall spring forth. Shall ye not know it?" The question isn't whether God can do something new in your life. The question is, will you recognize it when it springs forth? Because something is springing forth right now. Something is emerging from the depths of your spirit that's been dormant for too long. Something that's going to shock your family, surprise your friends, and silence your critics. You've been incubating long enough. The formation is complete. The preparation is finished. The moment of emergence is here. But the question that will determine everything is this: will you step into what God has prepared, or will you let fear convince you to stay in yesterday's limitations? Beloved chosen one, as we come to the end of this sacred moment together, I need you to remember 3 eternal truths that will anchor your soul in the days ahead. First, what you've been experiencing isn't abandonment, it's appointment. God hasn't forgotten you. He's been forming you. Every moment of that divine sleep, every hour of sacred stillness, every day of holy incubation has been heaven's workshop reshaping you for something magnificent. Second, your age is not your limitation, it's your qualification. The gray in your hair represents wisdom. The lines on your face tell stories of victory. The slower pace of your body is God teaching you to move with authority, not anxiety. You are not too old for God's purposes. You are perfectly positioned for His plans. Third, this is not the end of your story. This is the beginning of your greatest chapter. You are rising not to go back, but to go forward into a destiny that only decades of faithfulness could prepare you for. And I want you to know, dear friend, that you are not walking this path alone. God Himself goes before you, clearing the way. The Holy Spirit walks beside you, whispering encouragement. And there's an entire community of believers standing with you, ready to lift you up in prayer whenever you need it. Right here in the comments, you'll find souls just like yours, people who understand the weight of waiting, the pain of feeling overlooked, and the joy of discovering that God's timing is always perfect. Don't hesitate to share what's on your heart. Ask for prayer. Tell us how this message has touched your spirit. We are your family, and we're here for you. But before you go, I want to ask you one final question. What will you do with this divine awakening? How will you use the wisdom God has downloaded into your spirit during this sacred incubation? Let me pray over you right now. Heavenly Father, I place my hand on the shoulder of every precious soul who has stayed with us through this message. Lord, you see them, really see them. You know their hearts, their fears, their secret dreams they thought were too late to fulfill. Father, I pray that you would breathe fresh life into their spirits right now. Where they feel tired, give them supernatural strength. Where they feel forgotten, remind them they are engraved on the palms of your hands. Where they feel too old, show them that their latter days will be greater than their former days. God, open doors that no man can shut. Restore relationships that seemed impossible to heal. Provide for every need according to your riches in glory. Give them peace that surpasses understanding and joy that the world cannot take away. Lord, let them feel your presence right now. Let them know beyond any doubt that their best days are not behind them, but ahead of them. Use them mightily in this season, Father. Let their lives be a testimony that you are still in the miracle business. In Jesus' precious and powerful name I pray. Amen. Friend, if this message has stirred something in your spirit, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs to hear that God hasn't given up on them. Leave a comment below telling us how God spoke to you today. Hit that like button to let us know this blessed you. And please, subscribe to this channel and ring that notification bell because God has more messages for you and I don't want you to miss a single one. Remember, you are not too old, it's not too late, and God is not finished with you yet. Your incubation is over. Your emergence has begun. And the world is about to see what God can do through a surrendered, seasoned, spirit-filled saint. Until we meet again, walk in the authority of your calling, rest in the peace of His presence, and know that you are deeply, profoundly, eternally loved. God bless you, chosen one. Your time is now.